Today's tutorial is for a crochet mesh bag. First we'll start with the solid oval base, then the mesh body, and then the mesh straps. You can find the free written pattern with extra tips at vivcrochets.com or linked in the description. And if you find this tutorial helpful, please leave a like or comment to let me know. Thanks so much, and let's get started. For this project, I'll be using 140 grams of 24/7 cotton in white. This is a medium weight mercerized cotton yarn. Cotton is good for bags because it's less stretchy than other fibers. I'll also be using the recommended 4mm hook, then some scissors, a yarn needle, and some stitch markers. And you can use safety pins or bobby pins instead of stitch markers. To start, we'll make a slip knot. And to make a slip knot, place the yarn over your hand with the tail end at the bottom. Grab it with your thumb. And make sure you have enough yarn here to weave in later on. Then grab the top, wrap it around 2 fingers to form an X, and hold it with your pinky. Then with your hook, go under one side of the X, over, grab the other side and pull it through. Remove your fingers and tighten the knot. Now we're going to do our foundation chain. And to chain, yarn over, pull through. In our first chain, we're going to tighten it so it's really small, and that's so when we work into it, there isn't going to be a big hole. So make sure you tighten it, and then we can chain again. So yarn over, pull through, and you can keep tightening it, but for the middle chains, you don't really need to tighten it. And we're going to continue chaining. So here I did 40 chains and it's about 20 centimeters long. And the base, we're going to be working around the foundation chain, so it's going to grow both widthwise and lengthwise. So this chain isn't going to be the full length of the bag, it's still going to grow this direction once we add the rounds. So you need an even number of chains, and again I did 40, and we're also going to make sure that we tighten this last chain. And then we'll do 2 more chains as our turning chain. And we'll skip those 2 chains and work into the third. We're going to do 6 double crochets into this third chain. To do a double crochet, yarn over, insert your hook into that chain. So just go into the V, yarn over, pull through. Now you should have 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So that's 1 double crochet into the chain, and we're going to do another one into that same space. So yarn over, insert your hook into that space, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And we'll do 3 more until we have 5 double crochets. So now I have 5 double crochets into this chain, and we're going to do our last one, but instead of going back into that same space, we're going to go into this space here. So this is just the 2 chains that we skipped, and then our first double crochet we made into this chain. And we're just going to spread them apart and go into this space. So yarn over, insert your hook into that space, and complete your double crochet. And that should close up this hole, and the base of your bag won't have a giant hole in the bottom. And now we can work along the rest of this chain. So we have our 6 double crochets in this one chain, and we'll work into the next chain. So this next chain we're going to do a double crochet, and we're just going through the V, so that's just 1 double crochet in the next chain, and we'll move on to the next chain and do 1 double crochet, and we're going to do 1 double crochet in every chain until the last chain. So I've gone across, and since I did 40 chains, I have the 6 in this first chain and then 38 in between, and now I'm at my last chain, and in this last chain we're going to do 6 double crochets again. And the hole is going to be much smaller than this first one was, but we can also do the same thing for the 6th double crochet. So we can just spread apart the first 2 double crochets that we made into this chain and double crochet into that one. And that'll completely close up the hole. Now we can start working along the underside of the foundation chain. And we should be going into the same spaces that we went into. So I'm just separating the 6 double crochets we made, these 6 here, and then the one after it right here. We're going to look at the base of this double crochet and do 1 in that same chain. So it might be a little hard to see, but it's this space here. And then the next one is this space. And then here and here. So it's the same spaces, just on the opposite side. And it should look like that. And we'll move on to the next chain. And we'll do that all the way across. And that was my very last chain. And once you reach your last one, you should have done the same amount as the opposite side. So I did 6 double crochets, 38 in between, 6 here, 38. And now we're going to close the round by slip stitching to the first double crochet we made. So here you can see our chain 2 here that we skipped, and then the post of our first double crochet here. And at the top, we have the V that we're going to go under with our hook, like that, yarn over, pull through, and pull through the loop on our hook to slip stitch. And we'll tighten it. And that is the first round of our base. And if you want, you can stop here if you're happy with the width and the depth of the base of the bag. But if you want to add more, we can add more rounds. So to start a new round, we're going to chain 2. And then we're going to work into that same stitch that we just slip stitched to, and we're going to put 2 double crochets into that same stitch. So in that same space that we slip stitched to, we're going to do 1 double crochet, and then we're going to go back into that same space and do another double crochet. And then we're going to move on to the next stitch, and we're also going to do 2 double crochets into the next stitch. So make sure you're going under the 2 loops of the V at the top of the stitch. Do 1 double crochet and go back in and do another double crochet. And we'll do that 4 more times. So the next stitch we'll also put 2 double crochets, and we're going to do that for a total of 6 stitches. So there we have the curve done, and now we're going to do just 1 double crochet into each stitch until we reach this end. So we'll do just 1 double crochet into the next stitch, 1 double crochet in the next stitch, and if you don't want to count your stitches, then you can just look for the 6 stitches that we made into the single chain and stop just before it. So this is the first stitch of the 6, so we're going to stop after this stitch. So I've done my 38 stitches and I've reached the 6 that I put into this one chain. And in each of these 6 stitches, we're going to do 2 double crochets. So the same thing here, we're going to put 2 double crochets into this next stitch, and then 2 into the next until we have increases or 2 double crochets in the same stitch in the next 6 stitches. So for these 6 stitches, I've done 2 double crochets into each of them. And then I'm going to do my 38 stitches across until I reach the end. So the next stitch is just 1 double crochet. And then 1 double crochet until I reach the end. So once we've done our 38 stitches, and make sure that you're not doing a double crochet into the slip stitch from last round. So if you don't tighten it, it might be a little bigger and it might sort of look like a stitch, but this last double crochet is your last stitch. And now we can slip stitch to the first stitch of the round to finish it. So we're going to go under this V on top of our first stitch, yarn over, pull through, and pull through the loop on our hook and tighten. And that's round 2 of our base. So hopefully by now you can see a sort of pattern forming. We're doing increases on this side and on this side, and then here we're doing 38 double crochets and 38 double crochets. If you don't want to count your 38 stitches, then you can start using a stitch marker at this point here. So this is where it starts, and we can add a stitch marker here. So go over here, turn it around, and look for your first increase. So you can see this stitch has 1 double crochet, this one has 1, and this one has 2. And in the stitch on the right, we're going to put a stitch marker on top. So that will let us know when to start our increases. And you can use anything like a bobby pin or a safety pin. And that's just for if you don't want to count the 38 stitches across. And these 38 stitches you never have to count because you'll always stop at the end of the round. So for round 3, to start every round, we're going to chain 2. And then we're going to work into that same stitch that we slip stitched to. And for this first stitch, we're just doing 1 double crochet. And then we'll go into the next stitch and we'll do 2 double crochets. And we're going to repeat this 6 times. So 1 double crochet and then 2 double crochets into the next stitch. So we're only increasing every second stitch. So to repeat this, in the next stitch, we're going to do 1 double crochet and then 2 double crochets in the next stitch. So 1 and then 2, 1 and then 2, and we'll do that 4 more times until we've done it 6 times. So there we've done the increase every second stitch 6 times. And you'll notice that it sort of lines up with the start. So it should be an almost perfect half circle. And then we're going to do our 38 double crochets, just one into the next 38 stitches. And if you have your stitch marker, you don't need to count, just stop before the stitch that the stitch marker is in. So I stopped just before my stitch marker and I did 38 double crochets. And we're going to take out the stitch marker. And we're going to start the same pattern we did here. So we're going to increase every second stitch, which means doing 1 double crochet in the first stitch, and then 2 in the next. But make sure that you move your stitch marker to your first stitch. So that'll tell us for next round when to stop our 38 double crochets. So again, the pattern, 1 double crochet in the first stitch and then 2 double crochets in the next. And that's the pattern we're going to repeat. So 1 double crochet and then 2. Okay, so I've done that 6 times and now I'm going to do my 38 double crochets until I reach the end of the round. After our last stitch, we're going to slip stitch again. And now the base looks like this. Again, you can stop at any time you want, but if you want to add more rounds, you can continue in the same pattern. Again, to start the next round, we're going to chain 2. And the first stitch, we're going to do 1 double crochet. And then the next, we're going to do 1 double crochet. And in the next, we'll do 2 double crochets. So for this round, this is going to be the repeat. It's going to be an increase in every third stitch. So 1 double crochet, 1 double crochet, then 2 double crochets. And we'll repeat that 6 times around. So after your 6 repeats of this pattern, we're going to do our 38 double crochets again, stopping before our stitch marker. So once we reach our stitch marker, we're going to take it out. And now we're going to repeat this pattern. 1 double crochet. And after our first double crochet, we're going to put the stitch marker back in. Then the next stitch is 1 double crochet, and the third stitch will have 2 double crochets. And we'll repeat that 6 times around here. And once we've done 6 repeats, we're going to do our 38 double crochets and finish the round. Again, at the end of the round, we'll slip stitch to the first stitch of the round. And here are my 4 rounds. So I'm going to stop here and start building up the height of my bag. So this will be the base of my bag. It measures about 29.5 centimeters by 8.5. So if you want to add more rounds and make a bigger bag, then you can chain 2, and the next round will be increase every 4th stitch, and then do that 6 times. Then do your 38 stitches, and then stop at the stitch marker and increase every 4th stitch 6 times around here, and do the 38 stitches, then slip stitch. And you'll notice that we're moving the increase 1 more stitch down every single round, so you can make the base as big as you want. But once you're ready to start working the height of the bag, we're going to chain 4. And then we're going to skip the stitch we just slip stitched to and the stitch after that. And in the third stitch, we're going to do a double crochet. So this chain 4 is a double crochet and a chain 1. So it's basically a double crochet going into the first stitch, chain 1, and then we skip one and then a double crochet in the next. Then we're going to chain one, skip the next stitch, then in the next we'll do a double crochet. And we're going to repeat that. We'll chain one, skip the stitch, and in the next double crochet. And again, chain one, skip the next stitch, double crochet in the next. And we're going to repeat that pattern all the way around. And we don't need our stitch marker anymore, so we can take that out. So I've continued the pattern all the way around, and after your last double crochet, you should have one stitch left. And then we can do chain one, skip that one stitch, and slip stitch to the first stitch of the round. So remember, these 4 chains is a double crochet and a chain. So we're going to slip stitch to the top of the double crochet. So we can count the 3rd chain from the bottom. 1, 2, 3. So this 3rd chain, and there should be one more to the left of it. We're going to slip stitch to this 3rd chain, and I like to go under the loop in the back as well. So not just the top loop of the V, but the loop in the back. And then we'll slip stitch. And that is the first round of the body of the bag. And you should see that it sort of curls on the edges. And that's because we're not increasing the base anymore. It should just go straight up. Then for the second round of the body of the bag, we're going to chain 4 again. And this will also count as a double crochet and a chain 1. And we're going to skip this chain and go over to this first double crochet and do a double crochet on top. And then we're going to repeat the same pattern we've been doing, chain 1 and double crochet into this next stitch. Again, chain 1, double crochet into this next stitch, chain 1, double crochet into the next stitch. And we'll repeat that all the way around. Once we do our last double crochet, we're going to chain 1, and again we're going to slip stitch to the 3rd chain up. So we'll count 1, 2, 3, and in this 3rd chain we'll slip stitch. And that is the second round of the body of the bag, and we're going to keep repeating this last round to build the height of the bag. So here I've done 20 rounds and I'm ready to start the straps. The total height of my bag is 24 centimeters. You can keep doing more rounds if you want a taller bag. So I have mine folded along the foundation chain. So we're working along one side in rows for one strap. And then we'll do the other strap by working in rows around the other side. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to fasten off. Since I want the bottom of the strap to start here and then decrease like that, we're going to fasten off so we can attach the yarn where we want it to start. To fasten off, chain 1, and then we'll cut our yarn. Make sure it's long enough to sew in later, and then pull through with your hook and tighten the knot. Next, we're going to take our stitch markers and we're going to mark the 2 stitches along the edge. So you might notice that the mesh sort of starts slanting like that. So the stitch that's over here is sort of slanting towards the right and it's not perfectly on the edge. So what we can do is just fold it and sort of straighten out the mesh. And we're going to mark the stitch at the top that lines up with the edge. And then we're going to count and find the stitch on this end. So if you just eyeball it and look up from here, it might not match perfectly the number of stitches in the front and the back, so we need to count across. If you did your base different from mine, then your count might be different. But since I have 62 of these double crochets, I need to have one on either side. So subtract 2, that's 60, and that means I need 30 more stitches in the front and 30 in the back. So I need to count 30, and then my 31st will be the right edge. So I'm not counting this one, I'm starting here. That's 1, 2, 3. This is my 30th stitch, and I'll mark the 31st. And we can turn it around and count to make sure we have 30 on this side as well. So that's 30 in between the stitch markers. So my count was correct. Now that we have our edges marked, we can mark the start and end of our straps. So first we're going to grab 4 more stitch markers. So like I said earlier, I wanted to start around here. So I'll mark a stitch here on one of the sides. And to make sure it's perfectly even, I'm going to count how many stitches are between the edge stitch and the stitch marker, and then count the same for this side. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So in between these 2 stitches, I have 10 stitches. So that means I'm going to count 10 stitches on this side. So after my stitch marker, this is the 10th, so I'll mark the stitch after the 10th. And that should be perfectly even. And we can turn it around and mark this side. And as a final test to make sure that everything is marked correctly, we can count how many stitches are in between here and make sure that matches up with the other side. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 in between these 2 stitch markers. And the other side I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I have 8 as well. So once everything is perfectly marked, we can start our strap. Working around this curve, we have to start at this stitch marker. And working around this curve, we have to start at this one, because we always have to work right to left. So let's take this stitch marker, and we're going to attach our yarn to this stitch. And to attach our yarn, we're going to make another slip knot. Again, I'll have it in my hand. Grab the top, wrap it around 2 fingers, go under one side of the X, over and grab the other side and pull it through, remove my fingers and tighten the knot. But we're not going to tighten this loop around the hook. We're going to take it off, and we can stick our finger in there and take our hook out, and then insert our hook into this stitch that has the stitch marker. And then once you have that in, we can take out the stitch marker. And we're going to put the loop back on our hook and tighten it. And then we're going to pull this loop on our hook through the stitch. And now it is attached, and we can start the strap. For the first row of the strap, we're going to chain 2. And then we're going to skip this double crochet that we attached the yarn to and do double crochet into the next stitch. And you see how that creates a sort of slant that way. Then we're going to chain 1 and double crochet in the next stitch. So now we're just repeating this mesh pattern we're going to chain 1 and do a double crochet. Chain 1 and double crochet. And these stitch markers on the edge, we can remove them now since we don't need them. Just make sure to keep the 4 stitch markers in the middle. And we're going to continue this mesh pattern around until we reach 2 stitches before the stitch marker. And we're going to do a decrease, also called a double crochet 2 together. So we can take this stitch marker out now. Make sure that you have your chain 1 first, and then we'll do the decrease. So yarn over, insert your hook into the next stitch, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2. Yarn over, insert your hook into the next stitch, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2. So now we started 2 double crochets and we're going to finish it all by yarning over and pulling through all 3 loops. So now it looks like that. So here's how the first row is looking. We have our chain 2 and then we've gone around the edge with our mesh stitch and we finished with a decrease in the last 2 stitches. And now we can start the second row. And it's going to be a repeat of last row. We're going to chain 2 and we're going to turn. So since we've been working in rounds, we haven't been turning, but for the strap, that's what we'll need to do. So we're going to turn like that, and we're going to work from the inside of the bag. And we're going to do the same thing. We'll skip this first stitch and do a double crochet in the next. And again, it'll slant like that, which is what you want. Now we're going to continue our mesh stitch by chaining 1 and doing a double crochet, chaining 1 and doing a double crochet, and we're going to repeat that until we get 2 stitches from the end. So that's this stitch. We'll have these 2 left. So now we have 2 stitches left at the end, and the slanted part, it's just 1 stitch up here, and then there's the second one. So after we do our final double crochet, make sure you've chained 1, and we're going to do a decrease again. So again, yarn over, insert your hook into the next stitch, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2. Yarn over, insert your hook into the next stitch, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through all 3. And we're going to keep repeating that row, chain 2, and turn. And now we're working from the outside of the bag. And we're going to skip the first stitch and do a double crochet in the next. Then we'll repeat our mesh stitch. And we'll stop 2 stitches before the end. So that's my last double crochet of the row. Then we'll chain 1 and do a decrease over these 2 stitches. And now your bag should be looking like this with a slant here. So we're going to keep decreasing and making it slant, and we're going to be removing stitches on either end, and then whatever is left in the middle, that will be the width of our strap. So just keep decreasing and doing the same row until you have the width of the strap that you want. So here's how my strap is looking right now. I've done 9 rows of the decreases, and I have 5 of these stitches left. So this will be the width of the strap. So once you're happy with the width of your strap, we're going to start building the length of the strap. So we're going to make it straight instead of decreasing. And to do that, it's the same as these rounds here. we're going to chain 4 and turn. And this counts as a double crochet and a chain 1, so we'll skip this first one and do a double crochet in the next. Then we'll chain 1, double crochet in the next, and repeat until we get to the end. And this is my last stitch. So my 10th row is finished. So it's not decreasing anymore, we're just going straight up. And we're going to repeat that row, chain 4, turn, skip the first one and do a double crochet in the next, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. Make sure you don't miss the double crochet that's in the form of chains. So we still need to chain 1, and then we need to look for the 3rd chain up. You can count 3 chains from the bottom or the 2nd chain from the top. So there's the chain 1, and then this next chain is the top of the double crochet. And we'll do a double crochet in that chain. And it's looking like that. And we're going to repeat that same row until we get the length of the strap we want. Well, half of the strap, because we'll make 2 of them and they will connect at the top like that. So continue that until we get to this point. So after my 9 rows of decreasing, I did 14 rows of the 5 double crochets. And again, we're going to do the other side and it'll meet in the middle here. And this will be the total length of the strap. So once you're happy with the length, we can fasten off. So again, to fasten off, we're going to chain 1 and we're going to cut our yarn. Then we'll pull through with our hook and tighten the knot. Then we're going to repeat this entire strap part on this side. And remember, we have to start at this stitch because we'll work right to left. And again, we're going to attach our yarn to this stitch marker. And to do that, we're going to make a slip knot. And then take the loop off our hook, insert our hook into this stitch, take out our stitch marker, put the loop back on our hook and tighten it. Then pull the loop through the stitch. And we're going to repeat this entire strap. So I'll do 9 rows with decreases and 14 rows without. So if you made yours different from mine, just make sure that you make it identical to the other strap. Now that our straps are done, we're going to clean up the sides of the rows by outlining it with single crochets. Then we'll slip stitch these straps together to get to the other side, and we'll outline the other side as well. And that's how we can keep our yarn attached. We don't have to cut it for this part. And this part is optional, and if you don't want to, you can skip right to attaching the straps together. So here I have where I finished off on the strap, and we're going to go down the side of it, around the circle like that, and do single crochets. So we're going to rotate it like this and start working down the side, and we're going to chain 1. And we're going to do our single crochets. So each of these spaces, that's one row, that's another, we're going to put 2 single crochets into each of these spaces. So the first one here, we'll do a single crochet, and to do a single crochet, interjoke into this space, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, and pull through the 2 loops on your hook. So there's one, and we'll go back into that same space, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2. And that's our second single crochet. Then we'll move on to the next space and do a single crochet, and then another one into the same space. Then we'll move on to the next space and repeat. And we're going to keep going all the way down, and once we get to the slanted parts, we're going to do the same thing. So each of these triangle spaces, we're going to also put 2 single crochets into them. So I've gone all the way down until here, and for here we're going to put a single crochet into each double crochet and each chain 1 space. So the first one will go into the chain 1 space, then we'll do one into the double crochet, then the chain 1 space, and we'll do that across. And finally into the last chain 1 space. And then we can start doing the other side. And it's just 2 single crochets into each row. So once we reach the top, we're going to do our last 2 single crochets into this row. So first, we're going to slip stitch to the first single crochet we made here. So we put 2 into this space, and the one on the right, we're going to go under the V on top and do a slip stitch. Now it's connected at that point, and we just need to connect these double crochets and chains together. First, we'll connect the double crochet here, which is kind of hiding under the single crochets. So there's the chain 1 in between, and this is the top of the double crochet. So we'll go into the V of that chain, and we're going to grab just the back loop. And then we'll look for the one on this side, and you can see the double crochet, the chain, and then the next double crochet on the end. And we're going to go under and up through the V, so we're grabbing the front loop. Then we'll do our slip stitch. And these across the strap we don't have to tighten. And then we can slip stitch the chains together. So we'll go into this chain, the back loop of this chain, and then go under and up through the V, the front loop of this chain. And we'll slip stitch. Then we have these double crochets, and again we're going to go in the back loop. So through the V on top, not under the 2 loops, through the V and out the back, just under the back loop. And then on the other side, under and up through the V, only the front loop, and slip stitch. And doing it this way will keep the seam flatter, and there won't be a huge ridge over where we stitch them together. Then we'll move on to the next chain, and we'll go back loop and front loop, slip stitch. Then the next back loop, front loop, and slip stitch. And we'll do that across. And there is the seam. It does have a little ridge, a little bump, but it's a lot smaller than if you were to go under both loops. And if you know how to do it, then you can also do the flat slip stitch seam. It'll make it really flat. And now let's work on lining the other side, so this other circle. So after our seam, we're going to chain 1 and we're going to rotate it like this so we can work down the side of the rows. And again, we're going to do the same thing, just put 2 single crochets into each of these spaces. And if you want, you can carry this loose end in your stitches. So that's 2. And then we'll move on to the next space and do 2. And move on to the next space and do that all the way down. And we're going to repeat exactly what we did with this side. So I've gone all the way around and I'm back at this seam. And we're going to have 2 single crochets in the last space. And then we're going to slip stitch to the first single crochet we made. And we're finished crocheting the bag, so we can fasten off. And the last thing to do is to weave in our loose ends. So I'm going to take my last loose end and thread it into my yarn needle. And we're going to hide it in our stitches. So since we have a mesh pattern, it's better to hide it under your single crochets. So I'm going to go down through here and pull my yarn through so I can get to the single crochets. And then I'm going to go under these stitches. So just go under these loops of the single crochets. And I'm going to go across about half of my loose end. And then we can pull the yarn through. And we can go back in the other direction under those same stitches. And make sure you skip over 1 loop. And then we'll pull it through. And make sure it's not pulled too tight. And we can snip off the excess. And it's hidden. And we can do that to all of our loose ends. And our crochet mesh tote is finished. That's all for this video. I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and if you did, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know if you have any questions. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.